Our top story this hour, Indian Defence Minister Rajnath Singh will be wrapping up his Ladakh visit today. Now, Rajnath Singh has a packed schedule in the Union Territory. The Defence Minister, who is taking stock of operational preparedness earlier, interacted with troops at an Air Force base in Leh. The message was clear. In a warning to China, he said that India was capable of giving a befitting reply to its adversaries.
कौन लोग मौजूद हैं? उन्होंने बताया कि इंडियन आर्मी के लोग तो हैं ही, इसमें एयरफोर्स के लोग भी मौजूद हैं, आईटीबीपी के लोग भी मौजूद हैं, हमारे लद्दाख स्काउट्स के लोग भी हैं, आईटीबीपी में, यानी बहुत सारे लोग इसमें मौजूद हैं। अब इस प्रकार की ज्वाइंटनेस यहां पर हो तो ऐसी फोर्स को कौन दुनिया की ताकत जो है पराजित कर सकती है? एक साल पहले जो करिश्मेटिक काम आप लोगों ने किया है, सारा देश आप लोगों की तारीफ कर रहा है। आज तक किसी को आंख नहीं दिखाया, लेकिन यदि कोई भारत को यदि आंख दिखाता है तो भारत को यह भी स्वीकार्य नहीं है। और जरूरत पड़ी है तो आप जैसे बहादुर जवानों ने उसका मुंहतोड़ जवाब दिया है। कौन लोग मौजूद हैं? उन्होंने बताया कि इंडियन आर्मी।
This is Defence Minister's first visit to the region since Indian and Chinese armies pulled back troops, tanks, infantry from Pangong So in February. One of the highlights of his visit was the inauguration of 63 strategic infrastructure projects. Several of these projects are in Ladakh, Jammu and Kashmir and Arunachal Pradesh. Rajnath Singh said that terrorism and lack of development was one of the main reasons to turn Ladakh into a union territory. Meanwhile, China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs has said that the situation at the between India and China is generally stable.
当前中印边境局势总体稳定，双方正通过谈判解决有关边境事态。在此背景下，有关军政要员的言行和军事部署，应当有利于局势的缓和降温，有利于增进双方的互信，而不是相反。
However, disengagement at the LAC remains incomplete. India has been pushing China to disengage in key friction points of Hot Springs, Kogra and Depsang. Military-level talks between the two sides have hit an impasse. This comes as New Delhi reiterated that China amassed troops at the border in an attempt to unilaterally alter the status quo. China earlier tried to blame India for this tense situation. Remember, relations between India and China severely deteriorated after the Galwan clash of 15th of June. The fighting resulted in casualties on both sides. And WION's principal diplomatic correspondent Siddhant Sibbal is now joining us live. Siddhant, thank you for joining us. The highlight, as we discussed yesterday, was the 63 infrastructure projects. Now he has another packed day as he wraps up his visit. Could you just give us a lowdown of what his day looks like?
Well, today he is expected back to come to New Delhi, but last 2 days have been hectic for him in terms of he meeting various stakeholders, whether starting his entire first meeting with veterans, meeting the political leadership in the Union Territory, and then of course tomorrow, yesterday we saw that how the focus was on defense personnel. His speech, of course, was important given his speech was from Ladakh and not mentioned China, but said when it comes to neighbors, we are open to talks,
right.
And it is time that there should be a resolution to all the issues. But nonetheless, a very important visit, not only to focus on infrastructure projects, but also defense preparedness.
Absolutely, Siddhant. Now, another key point here was that he interacted with the troops at the Air Force base in Leh, and a clear warning to China. He said that India was capable of giving a befitting reply to adversaries. Meanwhile, China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs has said that the situation on the border is generally stable, but we do know that the disengagement is incomplete. So how do you assess this situation?
Well, yes, while Chinese presence remains at the line of actual control, The worry, of course, is when will the disengagement happen, because according to the February pact, disengagement should have happened in Gogra, Hot Springs and other areas, but it hasn't happened. So far, disengagement has only happened in the Pangong Lake area. What is the positive news? The positive news is the threat of war that was looming for last 1 year. That has been averted. That is not expected to happen. We know that over last 1 year, India has built up security in terms of the reorientation of the troops. We know that troops have been reoriented across the line of actual control and border with China from Ladakh to Arunachal Pradesh. Also, what is the key focus is the infrastructure project development. And this is important given the fact that Chinese have been beefing up infrastructure projects on their side of the border line. Actual control in occupied areas. Now India is doing the same. We know that China is always worried about that, but that's one of the focus point of New Delhi, so that Indian troops can go to areas, far-flung areas where China has a tendency of creeping and claiming.
Right, Siddhant. Also, another point here was that military-level talks have hit an impasse, and like you just mentioned earlier, that disengagement is incomplete. What do you think are some of the hurdles in going forward? We do have the infrastructure projects, but what are the other ways in which we can now take this forward?
Well, diplomatically, there are conversations. The military-level talks will happen for sure in the month of July. That is the key focus. But there is a sense of deja vu in terms of these talks, because every time both sides sit, there is a release by both sides, by Beijing and New Delhi. And the release basically say that we agree to disagree and we agree to talk again. And that, of course, remains the focus. It is a good point, the fact that both sides are willing to sit together and talk. The negative point, of course, is that there is no outcome to this. But nonetheless, India has understood what the Chinese, in a sense, have been aiming to, not only in South Asia, but in the region, wider Asia. Right. The intent is something that is doubtful, not only here in New Delhi, that's the perception across the globe. And India diplomatically is working to other solutions like the Quad. That is one of the biggest examples. At one point, India was very hesitant about Quad, but today India is one of the most vocal supporters of Quad. In fact, we can see the first in-person Quad meeting later this year.
Right, Siddhant. Thank you so much for joining us with all your inputs on this. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.